So, what is the God promised land? I thought we'll just talk about it today. So, God's promised land, often referred to as the land of Canaan or Israel, is the territory promised to God, promised by God to Abraham and his descendants in the Bible as an everlasting inheritance. It stretches from the Euphrates River to the Mediterranean Sea and from the desert to Lebanon. It is described as a land flowing with milk and honey. Land flowing with milk and honey, about God's promised land. God promised this land to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. Location: the land is located in the ancient Canaan, corresponding to modern day Israel and Palestine, as well as the parts of Jordan, Syria, and Lebanon. Definition: it was an area bordered to the south by the river of Egypt and to the east by the Euphrates. By the river of Egypt and to the east. Significance is that the land is a core part of the covenant between the God and the Israelites. Significance of everlasting. It is often referred to as an olamad, olam, or everlasting possession in the Bible, representing a permanent gift. So the land is sort of like a permanent gift. The people, okay, so the descendants of Jacob, Israelites, were tasked with inheriting this land, which was later accomplished under leaders like Joshua. In Jewish tradition, the land is central to their identity and heritage. In some Christian interpretations, are also seen as a symbol of spiritual blessing. In the Bible, the promised land refers to the region of Canaan that God pledged to give to the patriarch Abraham and his descendants, described as a land flowing with milk and honey. It represents a piece of divine provision, rest, and inheritance for the Israelites. Biblical origins and covenant. The concept begins with the Abraham covenant, where God instructed Abraham to leave his home in Ur to go to a land he would show him. Initial promise was in Genesis 12:7. God first tells Abraham, "To your offspring I will give this land, everlasting possession." But who are the offsprings? To be honest, are these the people actually living in Israel at the moment, or are they someone else? Were they the offsprings of that time, or are they the current people living in Israel? The promise was repeated to Abraham's son Isaac and grandson Jacob, later named Israel, often described as an everlasting possession. Condition of obedience. While the covenant itself is often viewed as unconditional, the possession and enjoyment of the land were frequently tied to Israel's faithfulness to God's laws. While boundaries, so I don't know if it's like if this one has got a religious significance or this is more like a geographical thing. So are these the people actually living in that geography, or are these the people that have the same genetics, or are they the people that actually were promised the land by the God? So like the religious people who are following the same teachings but could be living somewhere else. While boundaries vary across different biblical passages, they generally encompass a significant portion of the southern Levant. General scope: from the river of Egypt, Wadi of Egypt, to the Euphrates River, and from the Red Sea to the Mediterranean. Core areas are modern day Israel and the Palestine territories, West Bank and Gaza, and parts of Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. So that would be the modern day Israel plus the Palestinian territories, West Bank and Gaza, both of them. And then you have the parts of Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. You can see that they're already trying to get Lebanon, by the way. Lebanon, parts of Lebanon, and have actually already been inhabited. With Syria, they actually did try that a couple of years back. Biblical landmarks. Specific borders defined in Numbers 34 include Mount Hor, the Sea of Galilee, and the Jordan River. Theological and spiritual interpretations. Beyond its physical location, the Promised Land holds deep symbolic meaning across different faiths. Judaism, it is central to Jewish identity and the concept of a national homeland, often viewed as the start of the fulfillment of God's eternal promised to Abraham. Christianity is frequently seen as a type of shadow of the kingdom of heaven. Believers often interpreted specifically as the rest found in Jesus Christ or the future New Jerusalem. The term has been used metaphorically to describe an escape from oppression, a West African American spirituals and civilized speeches, or any state of achieved peace and abundance. Okay, the Bible actually presents the promised land as a divine gift from God to Abraham and his descendants as an everlasting possession stretching from the river of Egypt to the Euphrates. It is a central covenant promise representing a place of rest, blessing, and inheritance, often described as flowing with milk and honey. uh, Covenant with Abraham. God first promised the land to Abraham and his offspring. Genesis 12:7, you have 13, 15, 15, 18, 21. Later confirming it through Isaac and Jacob. A perpetual holding. It is described as an everlasting possession and a perpetual holding for the descendants of Abraham. Defined boundaries. The land is often defined as Canaan, bordered by the Mediterranean Sea to the west and Euphrates River to the east. A place of rest and inheritance. The land was promised as a place where the Israelites would find rest from their enemies and live under God's blessing, departing from their wanderings. Mm, Conditioned as obedience. While the promise was a gift, possession of the land was often tied to the Israelites' faithfulness and obedience to God's laws. Return from exile, even during times of disobedience and subsequent exile, God promised to gather Israel back to their land. Deuteronomy. Symbolic theological meaning. In the New Testament, as promised land is sometimes elevated to represent a heavenly country or a spiritual rest for believers. The promise is fundamental to the Old Testament, representing God's faithfulness to his people despite their disobedience and challenges in inhabiting it. Okay, there is his covenant. God commanded Abraham to leave his home and go to land he would show him, promising to make him a great nation and give that land to his offspring. Extension to descendants. Yo, Viking, how you doing? What seems to be the problem? I don't know. I don't know what's the problem, to be honest. It's just we're not really sure what is the God's promised land. Like, what would be the one? So right now, the question that I'm actually asking is like, is Israel the land of the God? Is that the one that was actually promised to the Jews? And who was that promised to, by the way? Who was that promised to? Are we talking about the people actually living in that territory? Are we talking about the people who are the descendants of the people that actually came from the same, that carried the same genetics? Or are these the people that are actually just following the same faith? So what are we actually talking about? Is it more like geographical? Is it religious? Is it more like genetic? Who has the claim to it? The Holy Land actually belongs to Egypt. So are you talking about like the land of Egypt itself, or are you talking about like Israel as Israel belongs to the Egyptian people? And how would you back that up? How would you actually back? Do you have like evidence to support it, like a religious evidence or scripture or something like this? I mean, there's if you're talking about like the Egypts, like the pyramids and stuff, I can understand it. Emerging ancient Egyptian sites like the Giza pyramids with biblical locations, including Jerusalem, Bethlehem, and Mt. Sinai. These itineraries follow Exodus routes and the life of the Jesus, often crossing from Egypt and Jordan, Israel, and the Sinai Peninsula and Eilat. The Bible takes place in Egypt. Um. Okay, I mean, you can have an argument about this, by the way. Here's the thing, right? The way the Bible was actually written, it was not actually written in the time of Jesus. It was after like a few hundred years that Jesus' descendants, or maybe not like a few hundred years, maybe like a few years, the descendants of Jesus actually writing the Bible. But what form were they writing in? Were they writing it in the paper form, or were they actually writing it on a did they have paper back then? I'm not really sure about it. Where were they actually writing it? Or was they just carving it on the stone and the people were actually picking it up? Um, but I can see, I mean, Egypt has got a lot of importance because Jesus actually did go to, the life of Jesus did happen in Egypt, most of it. Often crossing from Egypt into Jordan, Israel, the Sinai Peninsula, and Elat. Okay, so what are the most important locations in Egypt, by the way? You have pyramids of Giza, you have Sphinx, you have Cairo, Coptic churches, and sometimes Nile cruises. That's why there's a lot of Christians in Egypt as well, right? There's like the Coptic churches over there. How many? What's the number of Christians in Egypt right now? Is that like something like 500,000, or is it still in millions? St. Catherine's Monastery. Okay, biblical history. The journey often traces the route of the Exodus, starting with the Nile, moving through the Sinai Desert to Mt. Sinai, and finally entering the Promised Land. Many tours focus on the footsteps of Jesus, connecting the Holy Family's flight into Egypt with his ministry in Galilee and sacrifice in Jerusalem. By the way, even if you put like the Promised Land on Google, it would actually come up as Israel. That just automatically just come up on Google. But then I can see a lot of significance of Egypt in the picture too. Mm. Okay, then you have the logistics about this, which is the journey involves crossing land borders from Egypt to Israel, usually via Taba, often requiring visas for Egypt and Jordan. Typically 14 to 18 days for a comprehensive tour covering all three areas: Egypt, Jordan, Israel. I was just like giving me the tours actually. If somebody wants to go for like a tour guide, like this is what they're gonna be doing. Let me pull up like let me go deeper into Egypt actually, so I can find like so I can find more information about the relationship between Egypt and Israel and Jesus. Egypt is where the Israelites were enslaved and eventually led out by Moses. Many pilgrimages follow this route through the Sinai Desert to Mt. Sinai, where tradition says Moses received the Ten Commandments. Okay, that was in Egypt as well. Do you believe that the world actually started from Egypt? Do you believe that because many of the people are of the belief that it started from Africa and Egypt is in North Africa? Do you think is that where it started from, or was it more like West Africa where it started from? According to the New Testament, Joseph and Mary fled with the infant Jesus to Egypt to escape King Herod. Significant sites. Eden is oh. How do you? I've never actually heard about this one. You're talking about like the Garden of Eden. You're saying that that was actually Egypt. That was not heaven. That was actually Egypt. Okay, I've never actually seen this take before. I'm not gonna lie about this, but let me put it up. Maybe I might be able to find some information. While the traditional mainstream biblical location for the Garden of Eden is in Mesopotamia, it's supposed to be Africa geographically. Dude, am I tripping, by the way? What was the belief of like Eden in like heaven? Or was it just here? Eden is in Mesopotamia. Often alternative theories and others suggest that Egypt could be the location. Oh, Egypt could be the location of Eden. That's what they're saying. These theories often reinterpret geographic clues to align with the Nile or ancient Egyptian royal history. So am I mixing up the gardens, by the way? Isn't Garden of Eden the garden where the Satan, Lucifer, actually comes to he comes to both Adam and Eve, and then he asks them to actually eat an apple, and Eve actually does. Even though God actually prohibited them from eating the apple, but Eve is the one who actually does eat the apple. She convinces Adam to eat the apple as well. That incident happened in the Garden of Eden, right? And was that on Earth? Because I actually thought that was heaven, like they were doing that in heaven, and that's why they got abandoned from the heaven, because they actually made a mistake. I could be wrong over here. Argues in Eden in Egypt that the Garden of Eden was located in Amar Amarna in Middle Egypt. He suggested that the biblical Adam and Eve were actually the Pharaoh, Akhenaten, and Nefertiti, and the Nile is the river of Eden. Do you see my other comment on top of Viking comment? I don't know. The comment that I see is God built the garden in the midst of civilization. That I can see. God built the. I don't see any of the comment. Maybe your comment is actually removed because YouTube does actually do it. YouTube actually filters some of the comments. How hi Darth, how you doing? So that the Garden of Eden was located in Middle Egypt. He suggests that biblical Adam and Eve were actually a pharaoh, Akhenaten, and Nefer Nefertiti. I've never actually heard this, by the way. I've never heard that the biblical Adam and Eve were actually somebody else. They were known as somebody else in the African culture in Egypt. And the Nile is the river of Eden. This is unbelievable, to be honest. This is the first time I'm actually reading any of this geographical reinterpretation. Another theory suggests the garden was located under the Great Pyramid of Giza. Wow, proposing that the four rivers of Eden correspond to the Nile and the surrounding waterways. A symbolic connection is in Egyptian mythology. The land of Punt was considered a pure primeval paradise, often serving as the Egyptian Eden or land of the gods. Adam was an alien. So are you saying, I mean, was Adam an alien? I mean, you could have an argument that Adam was an alien because Adam is like if you're saying that Adam is the first human being and you're saying Adam actually came from a different planet, let's say from heaven, because that's where Adam was actually put, and then he was taken to, he was brought to earth by God. In a way, he's kind of an alien because he wasn't born over here, I guess. By definition, he has to be an alien because he was not born over here. So we are born over here, so we cannot say that we are aliens, but he came from a different planet. So you can kind of say that he was an alien. But what is your theory about this, by the way? What is your theory? So is your theory like God is actually not real? So the religious scriptures that we have is actually not 100% true, and that the stories are kind of real, but it's not real in the sense that there is like one God, one big supernatural God who created everything. Before Adam, there was a utopian society of men. Okay. Um, I mean, according to science, there were people before that. So science dates the humanity back to like thousands of years, at least 800,000 years. Or we could also find a structure of human beings from like 1.5 million years ago. Maybe not in exactly the same form, but we could find a Stone Age people of like that long period of time ago. So if you're actually believing that Adam was the first human being, which was only like 8,000 years ago, that wouldn't actually make a lot of sense unless a lot of history is actually lost. But some people actually believe that there were different civilizations that actually got destroyed with the passage of time. So when the civilization actually does advance to an extent where it has a lot of technology, where it could get information, access the knowledge of like say like the other universes, or the knowledge of time travel and stuff, that's where God actually destroys the civilization. That's where the civilization actually stops. It could also be something biological, that the civilization actually constructs and destructs itself. after it reaches a certain point. So I don't know. I believe in God. I believe in Jesus, but Jesus is not God. I believe God was in the flesh from the beginning. So what is your belief actually? Is your belief that everybody is sort of God? So I have God in me, everybody else has God in them as well. So I mean, there's a theory that I can actually explain to you, which is like everything that we have in the universe is not actually fundamental. So what do we believe is fundamental right now? Like the most fundamental thing we have is like electron. Let's say you're gonna start breaking yourself down. Like okay, I'm gonna break myself down into body parts, then cells, then atoms, then the electrons and all of this stuff. But the most fundamental particle is actually not fundamental. There's something more fundamental outside the realm of space and time, which is like the consciousness, and it's very hard to define it. And that whole consciousness is sort of God. The God is the consciousness, basically everything. And then we actually, all of us, every single one of us, actually came from God. So we all have the power to create or destroy to some extent. Yeah, that is the kind of theory actually. So the although the fundamental thing is actually outside, it exists outside space and time, but then we've been confined to this little place. But all of us are sort of God. Yeah, I mean this is quite interesting actually. This is quite interesting. So does that correlate with the theory of simulation as well? By the way, so like we're kind of living in a simulation, and people outside have actually got a headset. So there's you outside the space and time who's got a headset on, and you're actually sort of just like playing a game. Land of plenty. In the Old Testament, Egypt is often described as a land of refuge during famine, such as when Abraham and later Jacob's family, led by Joseph, moved there. Okay, six flat Earths on a cube, which simply live in Sector 1. Okay. So are you saying there's people actually living underneath this Earth, underneath the surface? I know the Earth's surface is actually pretty thick. Like people don't understand how dense Earth is actually from inside. Like the weight that we are actually contributing to the, let's say like the top portion of the Earth is nothing as compared to what we have inside. The inside is very dense. There's a lot of materials. But don't you think they could have actually done research on? They should have been able to find out. Don't you think they have like powerful rays that can actually detect some sort of motion if there's anything remotely close to like human beings or anything remotely close to having a consciousness? They would have found it out by now. Six petri dishes. I mean, to be honest, there are people who actually do believe that there are creatures actually living inside the earth. So it's not like a crazy concept. Like it is kind of possible. We have not been able to determine a lot of things. We've not been able to. There's a lot that we haven't explored yet. Even when you're talking about the sea, right? How much of the sea have you actually explored? Like we're talking about like going to other planets, discovering, but only 5% of the sea has actually been explored by the human beings. So I wouldn't actually be surprised if there is anything having a consciousness actually living underneath. But the chances of that happening, to me, it's not zero, but it's low because I feel like the earth from inside is quite dense. I don't know if there's any space inside the earth for the species to actually live. But then you could have a point that that species doesn't have to have the same requirements for life. Like us as human beings, we need the air. We need the air, we need water, and these are the requirements that we actually require for our life. But the species inside could be needing something else, right? It could be a completely different form of life. Like when we talk about like life on different planets, I've heard different scientists talking about like there could be life on other planets. There could be life on planets, even on planets that have like complete fire and all of the stuff, because that life might have different requirements. Maybe there's a life that is um operating on fire. Maybe there's a life form that is eating fire, that is getting produced by fire. So we don't really know. And by the way, there's an interesting thing that I read actually the other day, which is like everything in the universe could have consciousness. So like this jacket could have its own consciousness, and maybe it's not as conscious as us. Like we're able to use our brain to a different, we are able to use a different level of the consciousness, but maybe those things have some level of consciousness as well. So like the stone could have consciousness, your headphones could have some sort of consciousness. 6 petri dishes at one point, all the planets thrived. Let me look at this theory, by the way. Then there was a war in the heavens. All the planets thrived, and there was a war in the heavens. So you're saying every planet was like, so do you not actually believe that the heaven and the that all the planets were created after the war in the heaven actually happened? So the war in the heaven actually happened first, and then God actually made the Big Bang happen or whatever, and then the planets were actually created. Do you believe in the theory that the Earth was actually created like 8 billion years ago, or do you believe that it could be just from here? It could be here from forever. Are you a recruiter for Al Shabaab? Sevi, I don't even know who Al Shabaab is, to be honest. Let me just search Al Shabaab. Al Shabaab, is that like a Saudi football club? Al Shabaab Saudi club, most recently. Okay. I completely get it. No, I'm not a recruiter for Al Shabaab. I'm not even a football fan, bro. I watch football sometimes, but I'm not like really into football. Okay, by the way, when we're talking about the life inside the Earth's surface, yeah, a vast hidden ecosystem of microorganisms exists deep beneath the Earth's surface, also known as the deep biosphere. Scientists estimate the massive dark underworld, 16.5 to 25 billion tons of microbes, bacteria, and archaea, hundreds of times more than all humans on Earth, thriving in the sediments and rock miles below the surface. So they've been able to find like bacterias, and they've been able to find the viruses and archaea, but they haven't found any conscious life. Many gods became one. The planet gave birth to the gods. The planets gave birth to the gods. So the planet itself is not a god. So by the way, you're saying that we actually have a component of the god, right? We're kind of God itself. The god actually, the one big collective consciousness, actually divided into smaller consciousnesses. That is a theory, by the way. That's why we should be helping other human beings out, because they could be related to us. It's probably just one similar thing. But does that theory not include the idea that even this is actually made of God? Like this is made of God. Everything has been created and made up of God. It originated. The main source was actually the same. Breaking news: Benjamin Netanyahu is dead, killed in missile strike by Iran. Yo, Sevi, how are you like 100% sure about this one? Because I see a lot of videos actually getting posted by Benjamin Netanyahu. Are you sure those videos are fake? And has it been like confirmed by the Israeli government that he's been killed in a missile strike, or are you just dropping the information because it's your natural instinct? Let me check again, actually. Trump actually said it. No, I don't think Trump actually said it. I'm trying to find out if it mentions it anywhere. I can't actually see anything clear. I'm the supreme leader of the world. Viking, you're the supreme leader of the world. I totally believe that. Guess who is the supreme leader of Shias? That was a comedian that they killed. Someone said he said it. I really can't find any really can't find any recording of that on like YouTube or Google. Really can't see that. Lloyds of London is the richest. Where is that theory coming from? Lloyds of London. So are you saying, are you one of those people who actually believe that Lloyd's of London is actually the one running the whole planet? I mean, there's different theories about this. There's like the Rothschild one, that they were the ones actually influenced our political systems everywhere. They were the ones who caused the problems. They controlled all the banking system, which is kind of true. They control the reserve banking system. Then there's something about the Vatican Pope theory as well, that even the Rothschild actually getting controlled by the Vatican popes. They've been around for like 500 years. Okay, I don't think I can actually find out any evidence. I can find out any evidence that Lotus controls the whole planet, and at least it's not gonna come up on Google. Google would not give me any it wouldn't give me any answer about this one. I mean, I'm trying to do a deep dive on AI, but it's not able to get anything on this. They have been around for 500 years. Well, if they've been around for that long period of time, actually, I mean, I'm sure they do control a lot of. There's a lot of influence that they would have on our government as well, but I don't know to what extent that is true. I don't know what, like, did they control the feuds? Did they make the world wars happen? What's your theory on conspiracy theories? Savvy, I actually believe that the conspiracy theories could be true. You just need to find like a some sort of evidence for the conspiracy theories. I think some of the conspiracy theories have been proven false, like the theory of the earth, like the flat earth theory, right? That has been proven wrong by many people. Because when you go to spacecrafts, when you go to like when you go in space, or you go to other planets, you can actually see through the satellites that the Earth is actually a sphere. So the flat Earth theory would actually has been disproved. We've got pictures of it, and also the way we travel. Actually, the way we travel, right? So let's say you're going from USA to Pakistan. You can actually reach Pakistan both ways. If the Earth was actually flat, you would not be able to do it. So that theory has actually been debunked. But then there's other theories that have like logical backing, and there's not one easy way to actually debunk those theories. So I would keep my mind open to those theories. Viking is saying they insure the world. Okay, it manages the global licenses that allow its members to conduct insurance business in over 200 countries and territories. I mean, they do have businesses in over like 200 countries and territories. So I'm sure they would have a lot of influence actually. Let me see if I can find like a conspiracy theory on this. Am I a Zionist? No, I'm completely opposite of Zionist. Actually, I'm against Zionism. I don't believe that any country or any race has a right to a particular place. I don't believe that. I believe in the inclusion. I don't even think there should be like an Islamic state. I don't think there should be like a proper state with like. I think all the states should have the religious laws actually completely separated from the political system that you have. So there should be separation between the state and the religion. I'm a proponent of that. So I wouldn't want a state based on like the religious ideology. I'm not. Zion is going down. Yeah, it just seems like they are going down actually. I mean, there's Iran is actually retaliating a lot. They have done a lot of damage in Tel Aviv, and apparently they're saying that the Benjamin Netanyahu is dead as well. So that would be like a big slap to the Israeli face, because they're the ones that actually started the war. They didn't need to do it. Iran wasn't the one to actually threatening to nuke them or whatever. I don't even understand the argument of actually going to war because of the nuclear weapons, because we know that Iran did not have the nuclear weapons. They were not even close, man. They had 60% like a long time ago. This was according to the threat agency. And Iran actually, what was that? Yeah, US actually went to Iran in June and they destroyed the nuclear facility. So I don't even know if Iran could produce the nuclear weapons that quick. Really, there are only three banks: Lloyd's Bank, Bank of China, and Bank of Zion. Also, you're saying those are the three banks that actually control the world, and because Lloyd's Bank has been here for like a long period of time, so they would have more of a control over the government. I don't think he's really dead. Yusuf is saying he doesn't really think that. What do you think then? Do you think he's trying to play the game? He's trying to play along? Because if you look at the videos, right, the videos look pretty fake. You look at the video from the cafe, the coffee is actually higher than the cup, but the coffee is not falling. So that seems pretty fake to me. Why is he trying? Why are they trying that hard to actually prove that he's alive by posting the fake videos? Otherwise, why not post like a real video or not post at all? Like, why do you have to prove so hard that he's alive? Ball is saying talking to five people about stuff you have no clue about sums up the internet today. Ball, I mean, you can add up to it, to be honest. You have the choice to actually comment on the video. If you don't, there's something you don't agree with, you can actually discuss it, to be honest. Like, be more specific about the stuff. Don't just say that the stuff is stupid and this sums up the internet today. Viking is saying Iran is the center of agriculture. Iran is the center of agriculture. To be honest, there's a Iran is a center of a lot of resources. Actually, most of the oil in the world is actually coming from Iran. I mean, they control the Strait of Hormuz, where 25% of the 25% of the oil of the whole planet actually goes through that place, which is like a very large number. I think it's the same with the gas as well. The gas is pretty high; it's like 20% or something like this. Okay, there's by the way, Viking, I'm just gonna look at the Lloyd's Bank and the conspiracy theory. Apparently it's not coming up. There's no evidence to support a conspiracy theory that Lloyd Bank controls the world. Claims of a single entity, family, or bank secretly running the global economy are generally unfounded conspiracy theories, often linked to older anti-Semitic tropes targeting banking families like the Rothschilds. Mm, I mean, some of the banks actually do control the global economy. How much influence do they have? I do understand it. I can understand like they are controlling the banking system, but how much influence would they have on the politics? That is a question. But I mean, to be honest, if you actually just kind of use your mind, you would understand. You would have to think that if they're controlling the money, if they're controlling the economy, they would have some of the say in the political matters, right? So yeah, it does kind of make sense. A concept that was explored in 2011 scientific analysis, but noted the need to move beyond dogma or empirical data. Um, or the Bank of England or privately run entities putting money to give nations. And central banks such as the U.S. Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve was by the Rothschild, right? That's that is backed up by like a strong theory actually. Or the Bank of England are privately run entities that print money to keep nations in perpetual debt and servitude. Central banks are in reality government run or regulated institutions with profits going to national treasuries. 500 years, 200 countries. Yeah, that's a lot actually. Been here for a long, long time and is in presently like 200 different countries. By the way, does Russia have Lloyd's Bank? Russia and China? Or is China actually just following the Bank of China? Specific families such as the Rothschilds control the world's wealth and major institutions, a claim that has been repeatedly debunked and often stems from historical myths and propaganda. Uh, I just insured the place. I wanna go back to actually I wanna search something else, by the way. I wanna search the history of banking. Like when did banking actually start? How long ago do you think it was the first bank? Oh my god, I'm going back in time. Literally, I was not expecting that. Banking originated around 2000 BCE. Dude, are we talking about like 4,000 years ago? I thought banking was like a new thing. And in Samaria and Assyria, with temples, loans to farmers, evolving through Roman formal institutions to medieval Italian merchant banks. A Medici, key shifts included 17th century London goldsmith creating deposit notes. All right, so if you're talking about like the new banking system, that probably started around like 17th century, so we're talking like 1600s. But in the old days, we had different type of banking systems, like loans to farmers and that stuff. Um, mm, 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 And then 2008, we had emergence of fintech, obviously. Okay, so temples as banks. So people used temples as banks in the beginning, long time ago. Ancient Mesopotamia, Greece, and Rome utilized temples as secure locations for depositing and lending treasure. Then you had Roman innovations. By the first century BC, Romans, specifically the um, Argentarii, operated private non-temple institutions that handle loans, currency exchange, and recorded transactions. So the Romans in the first century BC, we're talking like 2,000 years ago, they were doing the private banking, non-temple institutions that handled loans. Ancient China and India also had thriving money lending systems. Lloyds of London was the only bank that didn't need to buy in need a buyout in 2008. So you are fully on it that Lloyds of England is actually the one running the system. Is that why, by the way, is that why your name is Viking Lloyd? Because you actually believe, like, super, you're very, like, a hard believer of Lloyd Bank actually controlling the whole planet. During the Crusades, they created a banking system of for pilgrims to deposit money and withdraw it in Jerusalem. Italian powerhouses, Renaissance Italy saw the rise of modern banking in. Temples handed out loans. Oh, is that what they were doing? Temples were doing that. They were handing out loans to people at like different communities as well, to like farmers and stuff. Vincent, you know what? Families like Medici, founded in 1397, and Bardi established branches across Europe. Okay, so in Italy, we had the modern banking actually starting. Cities like Florence, Venice, and Genoa. That's where the modern banking actually kind of like started. So you had the families like the Medici, founded in 1397, that established branches across Europe. Bianca Monte uh, di Paschi di Siena has operated in Italy continuously since 1472. So that was the first modern banking system actually in Italy in 1472, which was a long time ago actually. If you look at it, that's like that's like 600 years ago. So it's more than 500 years ago actually. English goldsmith. Then you have 17th century London goldsmiths, after holding valuables for clients, began issuing receipt notes, precursors to banknotes, and charging interest, explained by them. Central banks. Then you have the first central bank, the Swedish Riksbank. Do you know about this one? The Swedish Riksbank was established in 1668, followed by the Bank of England in 1694, which were created to manage government debt, says the Federal Reserve versus the Bank of Cleveland. Financial crisis and regulations. The 1930s Great Depression actually led to increased government regulation. Do you think that was actually on purpose, by the way, the Great Depression? Do you think that that was by coincidence, or they actually created the Great Depression so the government, so that there's more regulation from the governments? But wouldn't that be actually bad for the businessman? Because if the banks are regulating more by the government, then they would have less of say in the matters that they're actually controlling. Yeah, so that would actually go against your theory that the banks are the ones actually controlling this planet, all the decision making and stuff. Following the late 2008 financial crisis, the industry shifted towards fintech, digital forward solutions. Grandpa Carrington printed the first dollar bill under the Gutenberg project. I have the pattern on the dollar bill, but I get a royalty of every bill printed in every country. Oh, by the way, is that your actual name? Is Lloyd your actual name? And your grandpa actually, I mean, are you saying in a sense that grandpa is like because he was like because he was present like a long time ago, he was two generations up, or is the actual your actual grandpa actually printed the first dollar bill? You get a royalty of every bill printed in every country. I mean, that has to be your grandpa, right? Because you are getting the royalty of doing that. That'd be kind of crazy. Do you think money is just a hoax, by the way? money doesn't actually has that much value. It was just it's just kind of hyped up. Okay, that's pretty cool, man. Viking, that's pretty cool, man. How does it feel to be actually from the family of Lloyds? There is no grace without money. I mean, people don't get respected without the money. But it's the whole system of money. Even that started like a few hundred years or like a few thousand years ago, right? Before that, you were actually trading in different things. Like people were trading in gold because that had a lot of value back in the days. The people were trading the things that they actually needed. So you would actually exchange goods. That's what you would do. So if you needed something that I have in my farm, if I'm like a farmer and I'm producing the stuff that you actually need, and you had a furniture, let's say a piece of furniture, then we would exchange those things. That would have been an awesome an honor. Yeah, uh, actually, it would feel like an honor. Right? I understand that. But yeah, so money was only created to control, I guess. I mean, there's like a theory behind it as well. Like, why did they actually start the money? What was the need for money? Why couldn't people just exchange the goods? You could have an argument that money actually was developed to actually make the things easier for them, because when you're actually exchanging the goods, maybe it's not that easy to actually find out the exact value, because you might be giving me something that is valued way more to me than what I'm giving you, which could be valued way less, although we both are agreeing to it, but there's no standard value to that. It's only depending on the need. With money you have like a standard value for everything, but then again you can have an argument that is not of the same value to everyone. Like there's literally 8 billion people living on the planet. Do we all value the things the same exact way? Like I am sitting on the table, I need this table because I need to work on the table. If when I'm working from home, I need to put my laptop on the table, and if I'm streaming, I need to put my laptop on the table. Like this is stuff I need to do, because that's why this holds a lot of value. But for some other person, it might not have the same value. But they in the market, the table has exactly it would still have exactly the same value. So I do understand that argument as well. Only the landlord can show grace. The landlord would be the god, right? The government gives you 10 days. The government gives you 10 days grace. Yeah, that's true. I mean, the government. Yeah, this is the thing. Like people actually think that they own the houses. Even if you go to to the housing business, you don't actually own anything. What do you think would happen if you're buying like a house on a mortgage, right? What do you think would happen if the banks actually go um if the world war actually starts and all of the banks get destroyed? What do you think would happen? You're not getting the money back. You would not get the money back. The whole banking system would be destroyed. You wouldn't get anything back. The only reason they're giving you the things back is because they're still running the system. But if everything just goes completely annihilated, then you would get nothing back. So it doesn't. So which means that you own nothing. Even now, the government actually has the right to kick you out of the house. If they want to take over your area, they're the ones actually they're the ones who control this. Right, even for the compulsory purchase, like the government can potentially take property via the compulsory purchase for like the public projects. Um, in UK, technically all land is held from the crown under a feudal hangover, but for all practical and legal modern purposes, a freehold is considered full ownership. I might actually come off the stream in a bit. I might actually come off right now, but I'll be streaming at like 3 o'clock. If good is a minority, then good is the secret society. So you believe in minority being right? Is that what your belief is actually? Do you think majority is actually always spreading false information? Or do you think the majority gets so compromised because they're large in numbers, they don't actually have to put effort in to find the truth? And that's why they follow the same path. And minority is the one who are actually struggling throughout their life. So that's why they put more of an effort to find the truth. In most of the cases, you can actually say the majority is compromised. The majority is corrupt. With the majority, I mean, majority does give you like useless information, to be honest. That is true. Anyway, Viking, I'm gonna get off the stream. I might actually join back in like at 3 o'clock. But 3 o'clock stream would be more like an MMA stream. It wouldn't be from my channel, it would be from my friend's channel. So my friend has got like an MMA channel, so we're gonna be streaming from that. I will join his stream. And his name is Wolfpack as well, but it's like I8. If you want to join in, you would be appreciated. To be honest, thanks for joining the stream. Have a good one. If you haven't already subscribed, you can subscribe to my channel. Cheers. Bye bye.